My name is Emma, and I'm 25 years old now. What I'm about to tell you happened when I was just 13, on a night that changed my entire life. It was August 2013, and Hurricane Elena was bearing down on our coastal town in South Carolina. The news had been warning us for days about the Category 3 storm approaching, but nothing could have prepared me for the storm that would tear through my family. I remember standing in our living room, watching the palm trees bend at impossible angles as the wind picked up. Rain pelted the windows so hard it sounded like gravel being thrown against the glass. My mother was rushing around securing windows and moving furniture away from the sliding doors. My father was in the garage hauling sandbags. And my sister Jessica, who was 16, was on the phone with her boyfriend, crying about how scared she was. "Mom, should I move my stuff upstairs?" I asked, watching water pool in our backyard. My mother barely glanced at me. "Emma, not now. I'm busy." But the weather guy said. I said not now. That's when Jessica came running down the stairs, her face blotchy from crying. "Mom, I can't sleep in my room. The window is making that horrible whistling sound, and the tree branch is scraping the glass." I'm terrified. My mother immediately dropped what she was doing and wrapped her arms around my sister. "Oh, honey, of course. We'll figure something out. You shouldn't have to be scared in your own home." I watched this exchange, feeling the familiar ache in my chest. Jessica was the golden child. Jessica's comfort, Jessica's feelings, Jessica's everything always came first. "She can sleep in my room," I offered, trying to be helpful. "I'll take hers for tonight." My father walked in from the garage just as I said this, soaking wet. "Nobody's switching rooms," he said firmly. "Jessica needs her own space. She's preparing for her SATs, and she needs her study materials around her." "But Dad, the hurricane," I started. "Emma, enough," my mother snapped. "Your sister is going through a difficult time. Her boyfriend might be moving away next year, and she's stressed about college applications. She needs stability right now." I felt my face flush with confusion and hurt. But where will she sleep if not in her room or mine? That's when my parents exchanged a look I'd seen before, a look that always preceded something bad for me. My mother turned to me with an expression that was somehow both apologetic and determined. "Emma, you're going to need to give Jessica your room for a while." "What? Where will I sleep?" "We'll set something up in the garage," my father said, not meeting my eyes. "Just temporarily until the storm passes." The garage. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, there's a hurricane coming. The garage floods every time it rains hard." "Don't be dramatic," my mother said sharply. "We'll put your mattress on cinder blocks. You'll be fine for a few nights." But I wasn't being dramatic. Our garage had flooded 3 times in the past 2 years during regular rainstorms. During a hurricane, it would be a swimming pool. "Please," I begged, feeling tears start to form. "I'll sleep on the couch. I'll sleep in the hallway. Just don't make me sleep in the garage during a hurricane." Jessica looked uncomfortable for a moment, but then my mother's hand on her shoulder seemed to remind her of her place in the family. "Emma, stop being selfish. Your sister needs this." Over the next hour, as the wind howled louder, I watched my father move my mattress, my clothes, and my few possessions into the garage. He set the mattress on 4 cinder blocks, raising it maybe 8 inches off the concrete floor. My mother brought out one thin blanket and a flashlight with dying batteries. "This is just for tonight," she said, though her eyes told me she was lying. By 8 p.m., the hurricane was in full force. The power had gone out, and I could hear things crashing outside. Water was already seeping under the garage door, creating a growing puddle across the floor. I sat on my mattress hugging my knees, trying not to cry as I listened to my family inside the house. I could hear them talking and laughing in the living room. My father had set up camping lanterns, and they were probably playing cards or board games like we usually did during storms. Except this time, I wasn't included. Around 9 p.m., the water in the garage was already 3 inches deep, lapping at the cinder blocks. I was cold, wet, and terrified. Every crack of thunder made me jump. Every time the wind slammed something against the garage door, I was sure it would come crashing in. I tried the door connecting the garage to the house. It was locked from the inside. I knocked softly at first, then harder. Mom, Dad, the water's getting really high out here. No answer. Either they couldn't hear me over the storm, or they were choosing not to hear me. I knocked again, pounding with my fist. Please. The garage is flooding. Still nothing. The water reached the mattress. I stood on it, balancing on the soggy surface, and tried to call out louder. Dad, the water's on the mattress now. Please let me in. Finally, I heard footsteps. The door opened a crack, and my father's face appeared, backlit by the warm glow of the camping lanterns. Behind him, I could see my mother and Jessica sitting comfortably on the couch wrapped in blankets. Emma, stop making such a fuss, he said, his voice hard. You're fine. Just deal with it. But Dad, I'm standing in water. The mattress is soaked. I'm freezing. Your sister needs her space, he shouted, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in my father's eyes that scared me. Real anger, directed at me, his 13-year-old daughter, for daring to complain about being locked in a flooding garage during a Category 3 hurricane. But, your sister comes first, he bellowed. She has always come first, and she always will. Now stop bothering us and figure it out yourself. He slammed the door in my face. I heard the lock click. I stood there in the dark in water that was now up to my ankles, listening to my own father tell me that my sister's comfort mattered more than my safety. That's when something broke inside me. Not loudly, but quietly and completely. The last thread of hope that my parents loved me, that I mattered to them at all, it snapped. The water was up to my shins now. The garage door rattled violently. I knew I had to do something, or I might actually die out here. Not because of the hurricane, but because my parents had decided my sister's temporary comfort was worth more than my life. That's when I remembered my Uncle Robert. He was my father's younger brother, and he lived about 30 minutes away. They'd had some kind of falling out years ago and barely spoke. Uncle Robert had never married and had no kids of his own. The few times I'd met him at family gatherings, he'd always been kind to me, asked about school, remembered my birthday, treated me like I mattered. He'd given me his phone number last Christmas and said, if you ever need anything, kiddo, you call me. Doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what it is. With shaking hands, I pulled my phone out of my pocket. By some miracle, it still had battery and 1 bar of signal. I called Uncle Robert. He answered on the second ring. Hello, Uncle Robert? My voice came out as a sob. It's Emma. I need help. Emma? What's wrong? Where are you? I could hear immediate concern in his voice, the sound of him moving, getting ready to act. I'm at home, in the garage. My parents locked me out here because Jessica wanted my room, and it's flooding, and I'm standing in water, and they won't let me in. The words tumbled out in a rush, broken by sobs. There was a long, terrible silence. Then, in a voice I'd never heard before, low and dangerous, Uncle Robert said, "Stay on the phone with me. I'm coming to get you right now. I don't give a damn about the hurricane. You're a child and you're in danger. I'm leaving right now." True to his word, I heard a door slam and an engine start. Emma, keep talking to me. Tell me exactly where you are. I told him everything while I heard him driving, heard the windshield wipers going full speed, heard him cursing the weather and my parents in equal measure. He kept me talking, kept me calm, kept me focused on his voice instead of the rising water. I'm about 10 minutes out, he said. You hold on, sweetheart. When I finally heard his truck pull into our driveway, I wanted to cry with relief. I heard him pound on the front door, heard his muffled, angry voice shouting at someone. Then the garage door's manual release was yanked from the outside, and the door started to rise. Rain and wind poured in, but I didn't care because there was Uncle Robert, soaking wet, his face a mask of fury as he waded through the water toward me. Come here, he said, and he scooped me up like I weighed nothing, carrying me out of the garage toward his truck. That's when I saw my parents standing in the doorway of the house, backlit by the warm light inside. My mother had her hand over her mouth. My father's face was red with anger. You have no right, my father shouted over the storm. She's my daughter. Uncle Robert turned, and the look he gave my father could have melted steel. She's a child, your child, and you locked her in a flooding garage during a hurricane. He was shaking with rage, still holding me against his chest. What is wrong with you? She was fine. She was being dramatic, my mother called out, but even she looked uncertain now. She's standing in a foot of water, Jennifer. She's been out here for hours. She called me terrified because her own parents wouldn't let her in. Uncle Robert took a step toward them. You could have killed her. For what? So Jessica could have a quieter room. Jessica appeared behind our parents, her face pale. For a moment, she looked guilty, but then my mother pulled her close. We were going to check on her, my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. When? Uncle Robert demanded. When the water reached the ceiling? I was shivering violently, and Uncle Robert seemed to remember I was there. He turned back to his truck. I'm taking her. Don't call me. Don't come looking for her. If you come near her, I will call the police and report what you did tonight. You can't just take my daughter, my father shouted. Uncle Robert opened the passenger door and carefully set me inside, wrapping his jacket around me. Then he turned back to my parents one last time. I already did. And if you had any decency, you'd be grateful someone gives enough of a damn about her to make sure she doesn't die in your garage. He got in the truck and we drove away. I watched through the rear window as my parents stood in the doorway, getting smaller until we turned the corner and they disappeared. Uncle Robert's house was farther inland, away from the worst flooding. It was a modest two-bedroom place, but it was warm and dry and safe. He brought me inside, gave me dry clothes that were way too big, and made me hot chocolate while the hurricane raged outside. You're staying here, he said. As long as you need to. As long as you want to. They're going to want me back, I whispered, though even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. Uncle Robert's jaw tightened. Let them try. Then his expression softened, and he sat down across from me. Emma, what happened tonight wasn't okay. It was never okay. And I need you to understand something. None of this is your fault. Not any of it. I started crying then, really crying for the first time that night. All the fear and hurt poured out of me. Why don't they love me? What did I do wrong? Nothing, Uncle Robert said fiercely. You did nothing wrong. Some people are broken in ways that have nothing to do with their kids. Their treatment of you says everything about them and nothing about you. You understand? I nodded, though I didn't fully believe it yet. My parents did try to get me back. 3 days after the hurricane, they showed up at Uncle Robert's house. My father blustered about rights and kidnapping. My mother cried, saying they'd made a mistake. But I wouldn't come out of my room. Every time I thought about going back, I remembered standing in that garage, pounding on the door, begging to be let in while my father screamed that my sister came first. Uncle Robert handled them. He had taken pictures of the flooded garage that night and had already consulted a lawyer. He made it clear that if they pushed this, he would push back, and what happened that night would become public record. They left without me. Jessica called once, 2 weeks later. Emma, Mom and Dad are really upset. When are you coming home? I'm not, I said quietly. You're 13. You can't just decide to live somewhere else. Why didn't you say anything that night? When you could hear me knocking and calling for help, why didn't you say anything? There was a long silence. Then, it wasn't my fault. I didn't know it would flood that badly. But you knew I was out there. You heard me. And you didn't care. You're being dramatic. I hung up. She didn't call again. Uncle Robert became my legal guardian. There were court dates and lawyers and social workers. My parents fought it initially, but not very hard. I think part of them was relieved to not have to deal with me anymore. So they let me go. And Uncle Robert took me in not as an obligation, but as a joy. He enrolled me in a new school. He learned how to braid hair by watching YouTube videos so he could help me in the mornings. He came to every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every band concert. He taught me how to change a tire, how to manage money, how to stand up for myself. More than that, he taught me what unconditional love looked like. It looked like driving through a hurricane to save someone. It looked like patient encouragement when I struggled with algebra. It looked like sitting up with me until 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep because of nightmares. "You're going to do amazing things, Emma," he would tell me. "You're smart and strong and kind. Don't let anyone ever make you believe otherwise." Slowly, painfully, I started to believe him. I threw myself into school, partly because I loved learning, but partly because I wanted to prove something to my parents, to myself, to the world. I wanted to prove that I was worth more than they'd valued me. I made honor roll every semester. I joined the debate team. I volunteered at the local animal shelter. I was elected student council president my junior year. And Uncle Robert was there, proud of every achievement. When it came time to apply for colleges, we spent hours researching schools and scholarships. I was determined to earn as much scholarship money as possible. I got into MIT with a full academic scholarship. The day the acceptance letter came, Uncle Robert cried, actual tears streaming down his face as he hugged me tight. "I knew you could do it." I always knew. My parents found out somehow. My mother called me for the first time in 4 years. "Emma, we heard about MIT. We're so proud of you." "Don't," I said coldly. "You don't get to be proud of me. You didn't raise me. You threw me away in a flooding garage because Jessica wanted my room. Uncle Robert raised me. He gets to be proud. You get nothing." "Emma, we made a mistake." "You made a choice," I corrected. "Over and over again, you chose to show me exactly what I was worth to you. Don't call again." I hung up and blocked the number. At MIT, I thrived. I majored in computer science and economics. I did internships at tech companies. I made real friends who valued me for who I am. Uncle Robert visited every few months, always bringing care packages and bad jokes. "How are you doing, kiddo?" he'd ask, and I'd tell him everything. During my senior year, his health started declining. He'd been a smoker in his younger years, and tests revealed advanced lung cancer. I wanted to leave school to take care of him, but he refused. "You have 1 semester left. You finish. I'll still be here when you graduate." He was, but barely. He came to my graduation with an oxygen tank, and he cheered louder than anyone when my name was called. "MIT graduate," he said afterward, holding both my hands in his thin ones. "Damn, I'm lucky I got to see this." 3 months later, he died peacefully in his sleep. I was there, holding his hand, telling him about my new job offer. I think he heard me. I hope he did. The funeral was small, just me, a few of his friends, and some distant relatives. I stood at the front, delivering the eulogy, talking about the man who had saved my life in every way a person can be saved. And that's when they showed up, my parents and Jessica, slipping into the back row. I faltered for a moment, but then I remembered everything Uncle Robert taught me about strength, and I finished without acknowledging them. After the service, they approached me. My mother tried to hug me, but I stepped back. "Emma," she said, her eyes wet. "We're so sorry for your loss. Robert was a good man." "He was the best man," I corrected. "He was the only parent I ever had that mattered." My father's face reddened. "That's not fair. We tried. You locked me in a flooding garage during a hurricane because Jessica wanted my room. You told me she came first. You chose her comfort over my safety. So no, you didn't try. You gave up." "We made a mistake," my mother whispered. "We've regretted it every day since." "Good," I said simply. "You should." Jessica stepped forward. "Emma, it's been 12 years. Don't you think it's time to move past this? Family should forgive family." I looked at her. "You knew I was out there that night. You heard me knocking and crying, and you did nothing because it benefited you. That's who you are, and I don't forgive people who would let me drown for their own convenience." I walked away from them, and it felt like closing a door that should have been closed years ago. A week later, I attended the reading of Uncle Robert's will. I was not expecting my parents and Jessica to be there. The lawyer, Mr. Patterson, explained that Robert had left a very specific will. First, to Emma Chin, Robert leaves his entire estate. This includes his house and his savings and investment accounts totaling approximately $2.3 million. I heard my mother gasp. My father's eyes went wide. Robert had that kind of money? "Robert Chin was a very successful investor, Mr. Patterson said calmly. He lived modestly but invested wisely. Then the lawyer handed out sealed envelopes. To my father, a letter that read, "David, you were my brother, and I loved you despite your flaws. But what you did to Emma was unforgivable. You failed as a father. I took her in because she deserved someone who saw her worth. She became the greatest joy of my life. You lost a daughter who would have made you proud. I gained one who made my life meaningful. The money I'm leaving Emma is 12 years of child support you never paid, invested and grown. We are not even. To my mother, Jennifer, you stood by and watched your husband endanger your child. You prioritized one daughter's comfort over the other's life. Emma needed a mother, and you failed her. I became her family. She graduated MIT with honors. She's kind and brilliant and strong, and you know none of this because you threw her away. Live with that. To Jessica. Your sister was locked out in a hurricane so you could have her room. You heard her crying and did nothing. You built your success on the foundation of her exclusion. She is twice the person you are with half the advantages. You will never know her because you never deserved her. Finally, Mr. Patterson handed me an envelope with my name on it in Uncle Robert's handwriting. My hands were steady as I opened it. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, I'm gone. You were not just my ward. You were my daughter in every way that mattered. I never had children of my own, but I got to raise you, and that was the greatest privilege of my life. I'm leaving you everything because I want you to understand your worth. You are worth $2. 3 million, but more than that, you are worth love and care and protection, all the things you should have received from your birth family and didn't. Don't let anyone ever make you feel less than worthy again. To your parents, I say this, Emma is the best thing you ever created, and you threw her away for nothing. That is your loss, not hers. Finally, my darling girl, you're going to do incredible things. Buy a house. Start a company. Donate to causes you believe in. Live a big, full, beautiful life. I love you, kiddo. Always will. Make me proud, though you already have. Uncle Robert. I folded the letter and tucked it back into the envelope. My mother was weeping. My father's jaw was clenched. Jessica looked like she wanted to disappear. Emma, my mother whispered, if we could just. No, I said. No second chances. You made your choice 12 years ago, and I've made mine. You taught me I was worth less than Jessica's convenience. Uncle Robert taught me I'm worth $2.3 million and a lifetime of unconditional love. I'm going with his assessment. But we're your parents, my father said. No. You're the people who created me. Uncle Robert was my parent. You're just strangers who share my DNA. I stood up. I'm going to use this money to start a foundation for displaced children and teens. Kids who've been thrown away by their families, who need a second chance. I'm going to make sure they have what I had, someone who sees their worth. I'm naming it the Robert Chin Foundation for Found Family. My mother reached for me. Please, Emma. Don't do this. There's nothing to fix, I said, stepping back. You broke something 12 years ago that can't be repaired. You're not my family anymore. You haven't been for a very long time. I walked out with my head high and never looked back. That was 3 months ago. Today, I'm sitting in my new office, finalizing paperwork for the foundation. We've already helped 17 kids find safe homes and access to education. We've paid for 3 to go to college. We've provided therapy and support, and most importantly, the message that they matter. My parents have tried to contact me dozens of times. I've ignored all of it. Jessica has sent long messages about how sorry she is. I delete them without reading past the first line. Some people might say I'm being cruel, that I should forgive them, that family is family. But those people weren't locked in a flooding garage at 13 years old while their father screamed that their sister came first. I learned from Uncle Robert that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who drives through hurricanes to save you, who sits with you through nightmares and celebrates your victories and loves you unconditionally. My name is Emma Chin. I'm 25 years old. I'm worth far more than $2.3 million, but that's not the point. My real worth has everything to do with the love I received from the man who became my real father, the one who proved that family is a choice, not an obligation. And I choose to honor his memory by being that person for someone else. That's the best revenge I could ever have.